Warning, this content is for entertainment and educational purposes only. This video is brought to you by First Detachment Nutrition. Battle tested, expert formulated. Use discount code AB10 at checkout for 10% off. Alright, Gym Bros, Big Paul here today with another Anabolic Q&A. I got some good ones queued up today. We're going to talk about steroid cycles for strongmen and powerlifters, HGH for injury recovery, and what spilling over looks like and what causes it. And we have a lot of other stuff we're going to dig into as well. We're going to start it all in just 1 second with a booby bounce. All right, first question here is by OS Valderez, something I can't pronounce, 1480. How to deal with chronic injury? Will HGH help? It just depends on what the injury is. So for example, if you have something such as a ligament or tendon tear, it's not going to heal that. That surgical intervention is the only thing that's going to fix that issue. If you have a soft tissue injury, or if you are recovering from a surgical repair, HGH is definitely going to speed that up. HGH is going to speed up the healing from that because it increases cell division. It speeds up cell division. Cell proliferation, and plays a central role in almost all tissue healing in the body after some sort of trauma, surgery, etc. I personally had experience with HGH. I tore my ACL, I don't know what it was, 4 or 5 years ago. Stupid playing basketball, being big like I am, was just dumb. And I popped my ACL playing basketball, being a big dumb bodybuilder. And my ACL injury was, I had surgery done, I had ACL replacement, had my knee scoped for a meniscus tear, also from the ACL tear. I had a partial tear of my MCL. It was a fucking mess. And the HGH, I was pretty much fully recovered from the ACL tear in about 8 months, and my doctor was stunned that I was ready to go after eight months after the surgery. He was like, "I don't even want to know what you did." Which boggles the mind to me that anabolics and HGH aren't a standard course of treatment after orthopedic surgery. One of my friends, Kurt, today sent me a study talking about anabolic treatment after an orthopedic procedure, and it speeds up recovery. No shit, right? Because anabolics speed up recovery and healing, and HGH increases cell proliferation, which is important for healing after an injury. So one would think this would be a standard protocol for dealing with injuries. I don't know why it isn't. Probably because of the expense of it. Insurance companies don't want to pay for it. Maybe the stigma surrounding these things as performance enhancing. I don't know. It seems stupid to me. But I will tell you, don't kid yourself that these professional athletes that are coming back from injuries in record time, don't kid yourself that they aren't going and getting all the best treatment in the world. They're going down to South America or the Middle East and getting stem cells. They're getting HGH treatments while they're there. It is no doubt that is going on after these guys have injuries. Why wouldn't you if you had millions of dollars online? I'm just some dumb gym bro and I'm doing it. So it really, in my opinion, it should be standard treatment for injuries. For chronic stuff that you have, I have noticed that with HGH that the little nicks and dings and stuff that I would get as a 49-year-old man, they don't seem to bother me. When I earlier in the year, I pulled my testosterone back down to 125 milligrams a week and basically stopped taking HGH for about 4 months. And I definitely noticed a lot of the aches and pains came back. That could be just because of water retention. that you get with the HGH. So maybe that provides some sort of protection to the joints and connective tissue. I don't know, but I definitely felt creakier when I was off. I didn't really lose any size, not that much. My body composition got a little worse, but for the most part, I didn't notice a whole lot other than it. I just felt creaky. I felt like an old man again, and I don't when I'm running HGH in anabolics. All right, next question is from Abed Pathan 2880. Which should be the first bulking cycle? I'm going to assume that you've never used anything before. First cycle, in my opinion, should always be just plain old testosterone. If you're scared of needles, you can try Anavar or something like that out, but I don't know why I feel like I've said this one until I'm blue in the face, but a first cycle should just be testosterone. It's slightly above TRT doses. Getting into the super physiological, maybe something like 250 milligrams, then work your way up to 375, something like that. It really just depends. But I've found that that's the best approach. I don't know why people don't run testosterone for first cycles, because it's going to be the base of every cycle you run henceforth. So why not try it out and see if it's good for you? If you don't like the way testosterone makes you feel, you don't agree with it, then you probably don't need to be doing PEDs for the rest of your life. So why not start off with testosterone? And I see guys on first cycles pushing doses up super high. You don't need to. There's only so much muscle protein synthesis you can generate in a given period of time. Doing crazy doses on your first cycle is not really going to make that much of a difference in what you get out of it. It's like drinking for the first time. One drink's going to give you a buzz. You don't need a whole lot. So save the bigger doses for when you need them, which will happen down the road. The bigger you get, the more experience you get, the more you're going to need to grow. So get the most out of the least in the beginning and just stick with good old testosterone at moderate doses that are just slightly above TRT. All right, next question is from If Then 1526. If Then 1526 asks, what exactly is spilling over and how to avoid it? Spilling over is a term you hear when guys are peaking for a bodybuilding show. Spilling over, in simple terms, think of your muscles as like a sponge. You're going to uptake carbohydrates and glycogen, carbohydrates as glycogen into the muscle, which is going to pull water into the muscle as well. And there reaches a point where there's only so much carbohydrates, glucose, or glycogen that the muscle can hold, and then the water is going to sit below the skin at that point. There are many reasons for spilling over. Some of it could be you have incorrectly manipulated your sodium, so you need sodium and water to uptake carbs. I see these stupid protocols where people are trying to carb load with no water. Nothing's going to happen. You're probably just going to cause problems at that point. Using things like diuretics. Diuretics are pulling water from the cell, and if you're trying to load while using diuretics, probably not going to work out well. I don't know. Just a thought process here. You end up with that flat and soft look, so not a good look. So it's really how you avoid it is not to overdo your carb up. Make sure that you're getting sodium in correctly with the carb up, so you can pull all that glucose into the muscle cell, and just keep things simple. I think people end up overcomplicating their peaking protocols, and they screw up. Just do a simple carb load. I like to do my carb loads 2 days out from the show. So if you do spill over the next day, you've got time to clean it up. Easy way to clean it up is just to do a workout, do a pump workout, and that usually will pull all that water back into the cell. Pump workout, a little bit of sodium, you'll tighten right back up. If you start using diuretics too early, you'll flatten out, so that's another issue. It's just real simple. Just keep things simple. I think, guys, just especially for local shows, you don't need to do any crazy peaking protocols. Just go into the show, do simple stuff, carb up 2 days out, water drop the day before the show. Keep things super simple. Next question is from Nicholas Scalen 5396. How would you design a powerlifting strongman off-season and meet peaking cycle? I mean, off-season, it's not really going to be any different than what a bodybuilder does for the most part. Off-season, I would assume you're probably wanting to grow, maybe have a little bit of hypertrophy, keeping things simple, sticking with safe, simple compounds. Most powerlifters I know use way less than bodybuilders do because they're eating a crap ton of food. You don't need as much gear when you're eating a crap ton of food. So probably just test something like DECA. DECA puts a lot of water weight on you, especially when combined with tests. Probably want to run your estrogen higher because powerlifters need bloat for helping with leverage on lifts in the off season. But I would stick with the safe stuff. Probably test DECA in the off season. Maybe test equipoise. I don't know. Test DECA is probably a better choice. Some insulin and growth hormone. Just keep things super simple. Peaking for a meet. That's when you pull out the heavy guns. There are things that we know, certain compounds that we know that are better for neural drive, for strength, such as anadrol and halo testing. Often what I'll see is the same protocols used in the off season are continued into the meet, and then the last 4 to 6 weeks orals will be added. I don't know. Anadrol something like 4 weeks out, and halo testing the last couple weeks before the meet for neural drive to help with that. And I'll see sometimes guys will do things if they aren't concerned about making weight to increase bloat to help get more leverage. Maybe stupid things like D-ball. I'm sorry, but as you guys know, I'm not a D-ball fan. But it does have its place in certain applications. It's just not the greatest thing for bodybuilding for most people. There are some people that respond well to it. So don't get your butt hurt if you're a D-ball fan. There are some people that do well with D-ball. But anyway, just keep it simple. Use one or both of those going into the meet. I don't like to run halo testing for more than 2 or 3 weeks. Anadrol is for something like 4 to 6 weeks at max, and just stick with a simple injectable protocol before that. Ashish 4408, he asks, how do you get paper thin skin and veins in the abs? Well, you got to get super lean to thin your skin out. Some of that's just genetic, though, too. I'm veiny even when I'm fat. I seem to have thin skin. My skin is very thin, but it also stretches. I get stretch marks really easy. So some of it's genetic. My dad was the same damn way. My dad always was veiny, even when he would be bloated and fat. He had veins everywhere, so some of it's genetic. If you run anabolics for a long enough time, it does seem that your veins do grow and they get larger. But a lot of that's just genetic. For paper thin skin, you have to get super lean. You have to get really, really lean. I'm talking about like down to like 5%, sub 5% type lean, which most people never get to. And I often, like with clients, I don't see them get that really thin skin up until the end. But it does seem to be mostly genetic, though. There's only some people. It doesn't matter how lean you get them; they don't get super veiny. They don't get the really thin-looking skin. They have more of a smooth look, which is okay. I don't know that judges, at least that I've seen in shows, are rewarding people for the paper thin skin. When you get on stage, you're kind of washed out anyway with the lights and the tan, so a lot of that graininess doesn't show through when you're on stage. You'll see it, guys post pics of themselves in the gym a couple days out from the show, and they look super freaking grainy, and then you see them on stage, and you're like, what happened to all that? I think the tan, I think the lights, some of that washes all that out, so I don't know how much of a difference it plays on the stage. As long as you're lean, as long as you're ripped, that's the most important part. I don't think they're rewarding you for being extra veiny on the stage. Adam Coulter, 3191, he goes, how much cardio should you do during the off season and what kind of cardio? I'll be honest with you, I am terrible about doing cardio. This physique you see right now is the result of doing zero cardio for several months. Don't take me as the example. I know it's horrible. I just absolutely despise doing cardio. I do high volume training. I take my dogs for walks, things like that. It depends on what your goals are. this is just my opinion, and my coach will probably disagree with me, Justin Harris, but I think for contest prep, I like doing low intensity, steady state, list cardio, just walking on the treadmill, stuff like that. For me, for contest prep, I feel that does the best. When I start doing higher intensity cardio on contest prep, when I am in a deficit, it seems like my muscle melts away. During the off season, if you're concerned about heart health, I think probably doing HIIT cardio makes the most sense. Doing high intensity interval training, getting your pulse up. I did, in the past, I would sprinkle in some HIIT training in the HIIT cardio in the off season. Probably something like 10, 15 minutes of HIIT cardio, where I would do 40 seconds at a slow pace on the bike or the stair climber, and then 20 seconds of an all-out sprint just to get my pulse up, to help keep blood pressure under control, to help with my cardiovascular health. In the off-season, when we're bulking, I think the benefit of cardio is increased appetite and cardiovascular health. Beyond that, I don't know that it really provides so much of a benefit. I've found that if I limit my cardio in the off season, it's more effective when I do cuts. I can get by with less. I don't know. It's probably all in my fucking head, to be honest with you, but it seems like when I do a shit ton of cardio in the off season, like when I shift to a cutting phase, that the cardio doesn't work as well for burning fat off of me. But this physique you see here right now, this is the result of zero cardio. DB Motorsports 5506 asks, can someone be somewhat insulin resistant yet have pretty normal glucose levels? Yeah, I have seen that where people are in the early stages of insulin resistance and they do have relatively normal glucose levels. And probably, I'm just speculating, I'm not a doctor or a scientist, but what I speculate happens in the early stages of insulin resistance is that your body upregulates insulin production to keep up with the carbohydrates that you're taking, and you have this vicious cycle where your body's making more insulin, and then because you're making more insulin, the insulin resistance is increasing, and then eventually you end up with beta cell burnout, and then the body just can't keep up with the insulin production necessary to shuttle all the carbohydrates where they need to go, and then you end up with rising glucose levels. That's sort of how type 2 diabetes begins. And what I've seen in the early phases, this is just, once again, this seems from my experience, what I see, that guys that are not necessarily showing low glucose levels or high glucose levels on blood panels or finger prick testing, what I'll see first is triglycerides start to go through the roof. And what I think is happening is that the liver is spewing out triglycerides to deal with the elevated glucose levels as a way of compensating for lack of insulin production. So the body is trying really hard to keep up with what's going on, making more insulin, not being able to keep up, cranking out more triglycerides to help deal with rising glucose levels. So it's this vicious cycle that you get into. So for me, the canary in the coal mine is when I see high triglycerides. That tells me that there's some sort of issue, in most instances, some sort of issue with glucose control. Acer124 asks, all things being progressive, how much muscle do you believe someone of the intermediate level, 220 pounds contest weight at 6 feet tall can gain per year? Some of this is genetic, some of this, there's so many things. If you have everything dialed in perfectly, you don't have any injuries, your diet's dialed in, you're taking the proper PEDs, your training's buttoned up, everything. Realistic stage weight added per year, if you add 10 pounds of stage weight in a year, that is incredible. Something like 5 to 10 pounds. I know everybody I've seen my crazy rebound in the large amount of stage weight that I put on a year. That's just very uncommon, and it was just a really weird, fluky thing where I was super depleted and there was some overcompensation. I had muscle before when I was younger. So that's not really realistic for most people. But I would say 5 to 10 pounds of stage weight per year is a great gain. And I know a lot of guys get disappointed when they think about 5 pounds. Let's just say 5 pounds of stage weight in a year. A lot of guys get very disappointed with that. But think about what 5 pounds of steak looks like. That's a lot. That's a lot of added tissue. And you slap that onto your body. 5 pounds is considerable. So don't be disappointed with a 5 pound stage weight gain in a year. And also, some years your stage weight may be the same, but you're leaner. So the body composition is better. I don't get too hung up on the scale. I go more by how the pictures look. This past off season, I weighed exactly the same as I did last off season. Nothing changed. And then I was kind of like, damn, man, I didn't really make any progress this year. But then I look at my pictures from last year to this year. I'm way leaner at the same body weight that I was last year. I have way better body composition than I, I think I maxed out at around 280 this off season. I'm like 270 or low 270s right now, 270 daytime weight right now. But I am way leaner at this weight than I was last year. So the scale doesn't always tell the truth. Let the pictures tell the truth. When you get on stage, the judges don't know how much you weigh. They have no idea. They know what weight class you're in, but they don't know how much you weigh on stage. They just know what you look like. They don't care how much you bench. That doesn't matter on stage. They don't care what you weigh. What matters is what you look like on stage. So keep that in mind. Ironhead 515 asks, what exactly it sucks so bad about prep? Is it mostly the drug effects or of the stems and the trend, or is it being hungry, tired, working out when you don't want to? Sorry for my ignorance. It's all of the above, dude. I mean, I don't know. And anybody who says that prep is easy is full of crap. It's even easy prep is still hard. Most people would cave. The younger me couldn't get through a prep. I had many false starts on preps. I get about 8-10 weeks in, and I'm just like, fuck this. I'm drinking beer and eating pizza. I'm done. And I just didn't have the mental fortitude to push through it when I was younger. I do now. I'm older. I'm more patient. I'm more persistent than I was, say at 21. For me, the hardest parts for me is the hunger doesn't bother me. I can push through the hunger. The worst part for me is not being able to sleep. That really gets to me after a while. The not being able to sleep, and you get this feeling of being tired, but not being able to sleep, and it is the worst. That sucks. Anybody that's been at the end of contest prep knows that you get constipated. Not being able to poop sucks. Having zero sex drive. I think my girlfriend thought I didn't want to be with her anymore. I mean, like the last month of prep, the very last thing you want to do is think about banging your girlfriend or whatever your persuasion is with your partner. That is of zero interest at the end. All you want to do is sleep and eat a sandwich. So that's the part that stinks. The drugs don't bother me. Honestly, the being hungry doesn't bother me. I can push through that. That doesn't really get to me. I have a low appetite anyway. I don't really like to eat. I have to force myself to eat, so that's not an issue for me. I actually kind of enjoy the break from eating. It's sort of cathartic. I like eating less, but it's the fatigue. It's the not being able to sleep. It's the constantly feeling tired but can't sleep. The lack of sex drive. All of the above. You're just ragged out at the end, and it's just the funny part is as soon as you get some food in you, so it's clearly not the drugs that are the huge part of the problem. 2 or 3 days of eating, and you're just right back to normal. Your workouts are great, your sleep's great, your sex drive comes back. So it can't be the drugs that are causing all the effects. It's got to be the lack of food. All right, folks, that's all I've got for you on this one. If you want to support me, you can support my sponsor, First Detachment. Quality supplements made by the man himself, Justin Harris, for bodybuilders just like you and me. Discount code is AB10. Please use it at checkout. The link to their stuff is in the video description below. Thank you for watching, guys. For coaching or consultations, head over to www.anabolicbodybuilding.com to book your spot today. I can help you with optimizing hormones, fat loss, muscle gain, physique, athletic performance, nutrition, and health. For more information, shoot me an email at bigp3rd@gmail.com.